Good evening.
Oh, welcome back, hopefully.
Right.
Oh, so sorry about that. Yes, the internet can be a little bit of an issue living out in the middle of nowhere like we do. So hopefully some of you will catch up with this. But obviously it'll be on the YouTube channel afterwards.
Yeah, so if you're watching this on the recording, we'll just catch you up very quickly. We just shared a little bit about our video series that's starting on the 23rd of March, which is all about how do I thrive. We've got topics like after an abusive relationship, with physical health issues, with mental health issues, and we're going to be putting those out to anyone on our mailing list. So if that's something you might be interested in, we'd love to have you join us, and you can do that by going to our website.
Absolutely.
And that video series is all about kind of introducing you to kind of how we talk and what we share, to tell you a little bit about our relationship school, which is starting in April. So we just shared a little bit about that. So I'll just run through that very quickly and then we'll carry on with the show. So relationship school goes live on the 6th of April. But before then, there's lots and lots of content available already. And there's videos, there's core content videos, there's
PDF
interviews,
this relationship manual.
Yeah, there's a relationship manual, and during the live school we'll be having 2 calls a week, and there's a community forum where you can connect with other people in the school, ask questions, talk to us, get to know what it is we share. Really put us on the spot, ask us stuff, what is it you want to know about relationships? So that's coming in April, and we just wanted to make sure you know about it because it's going to be amazing.
It is.
We do not want it
and
to
now
be
is the time to get in, because we've got some amazing offers, and once you join relationship school you are in for life, and you can come back and do the live school again and again and again if you want to. So
yeah, so that was just our starting point. So we'll carry on. I think we'll pick up from where we were. So our competition winner from last week.
Oh yes, we had our competition last week, and we were asking you who it is that you would really love to meet. Last week we had Aaron Turner phoned me out of the blue, and that was like oh my gosh, he's one of my heroes. So we asked you to share with us who it is, who a famous person maybe, or somebody you would love to meet. And the winner of our competition from last week is the lovely Frank Jackson.
Yay! Yeah, so it was Frank. Frank's our winner from last week. So thank you, Frank, for taking part.
Thank you very, very much.
Very exciting. And as always, we're going to, as we kind of decided a few weeks ago, we're going to do a competition each time we do the show. And our prize is going to be that whoever wins, get to ask us sort of 1, 2, or 3 questions, and we'll put together a video just for you to answer your personal questions. So stick with us. If you found us, or if you're watching the show afterwards, stick through to the end, because at the end we'll tell you what this week's competition is, how you can join in, and fingers crossed you could be our lucky winner.
Absolutely. So this week's Living and Learning and Loving.
Yay!
What a week it's been this week. I'm sure most people know that on Sunday of this week it was International Women's Day, and I was invited by a wonderful, wonderful lady, my lovely friend Anne Tattersall, to speak at an event that she was putting on. It was the Festival of Women's Voices that she put on locally to us here in Torrington, and I was invited to speak. So it was just it was an honor to be asked, to be honest, to speak. I was on the bill, if you like, as an inspirational speaker, and which was just really, really lovely. And the introduction that Anne gave me was amazing. And what I saw I do a lot of speaking. Beck and I do our YouTube channels. We make a lot of videos. We reach out to people all the time. But this was a slightly different audience. This was people, mostly, there were some people in the room that knew me, but generally they were people completely new to what we share and completely new to me. And the talk was, I'd been invited to share my story. And the reason that I was billed as inspirational, and the reason that I was asked to share, was because of some of the things that had happened to me in my life, around relationships, how I'd got into such difficulties, and how I've come out the other side, and created a life that I absolutely love. Beck and I have just so much fun. We truly have an amazing life. So it was an honor and a pleasure to share. I did, during the time since I was asked until I got onto the stage, I've got to a point now where I'm a little bit bored with my story. It feels like all of those things that I talk about that happened, it feels like they happened to another person. It doesn't feel like the me that I am now. So, when in the run up to doing the talk, I was kind of thinking, oh gosh, do I have to share my story again? I'm a little bit bored with it myself. Is it a good idea? Should I? And I got into a little bit of thinking about, talking about something maybe a little bit more interesting. But then the amazing thing, there was another amazing lady who shared her story on the stage with me. And then we had a best-selling author, Leslie Pierce, who gave an amazing, there was questions and answers, a lovely lady. She shared some beautiful stuff with us. But what I noticed when I got on the stage and shared my story is how impactful it is to other people to hear, when we have struggled and suffered in our lives and come out the other side, how helpful our stories can be to other people who are maybe in a similar situation, or maybe they can identify with your situation, even if theirs isn't the same. And the amount of lovely ladies in that room that came up to me afterwards, and some of the conversations that it sparked, I was deeply moved, actually, and really truly honoured that I had been asked in that way, and I could share something that hopefully is helpful to someone else. And before I gave my talk, Anne had a little chat to me and the other lady, and she said, if one person in this room benefits from this evening, from all, she has been working very hard for quite some time to put together an amazing event. And it's like she said, if one person gets something from this evening, it will all have been worthwhile. And already some amazing things have come from that evening. So Anne, you did it. So my living and learning this week is to kind of roll with what comes to you in life. If that's what's asked of you, if that's what, to do it. Because even when we can have thinking, even when we maybe don't understand why life is taking us in a certain direction and why things are unfolding the way they are, there is something behind life that we can relax into and trust. And that's what I noticed in that room with all those amazing people in that room, and what I wanted to share with them, to kind of say, in spite of all sorts of anything that can go on for us, there is something, there is an intelligence behind this life that has got our back, that we can lean into and trust to support us and help us through. And so, yeah, my living and learning was all about how amazing really human beings are, and what amazing things human beings will do. The amount of people in that room that were giving of themselves in various different ways. And my loving this week has to go to Anne Tattersall, who organised that event. She is like a dynamo, that lady. She is just amazing. And on the morning, I spoke on International Women's Day on that Sunday, and on that morning, Anne's stepmom sadly passed away. And Anne showed up to that event, and she hosted that event, and she carried on in spite of, there must have been chaos going on for her in many ways, and yet she is the epitome of what human beings can achieve when we just know the resources that we have got within us. So yeah, absolutely hats off to the amazing, wonderful, lovely Anne Tattersall. She is an amazing lady. loving her.
Yeah, it was a really special event, actually. It was Leslie Pierce is an author that I've been reading her books for probably about 20 years. And so when we heard that Deb got invited to speak, and then we were told that Leslie Pierce was going to be there as well as part of this event, it was an event not to be missed, and I was blown away to be in the room with her. And it's interesting to me because, like Deb said, I've heard her story quite a few times, and it's almost funny now, kind of hearing it in a way, because you can see with the distance we've got from what happened then, it kind of is almost comical, some of the stuff that happened. But it did. I know one of the things that happened when Deb was kind of being asked to share her story, and we were kind of like, oh, I'd rather just talk about what we know and what's helpful. But afterwards, we had a conversation, and I said to Deb that what I really noticed that, I've heard the story a lot of times, and it I'm familiar with it and where it goes and what happens, but I could feel people in the room going, oh, you've been through stuff too. Oh my gosh, you've come out of it and you're thriving now. That is so inspiring. And we forget sometimes when we kind of go into those places, don't we, that actually it's amazing to be somebody that's been through that stuff and come out of it, and to be able to inspire other people, because there were definitely people in that room that are potentially in a similar position to what Deb was, that are looking for somebody to kind of offer them some hope, and to have someone stand on stage and go, there is hope, this can be you. So I was, having a few moments of, Deb's story again. It was actually really nice to kind of sit there and feel what happened in the room. And a few people that I heard kind of come up to Deb afterwards and say how amazing her story is and where she's at. It does it reminds you that we are being guided to do what is needed to be done.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was pretty special. Really nice day.
It was a lovely day.
Yeah. So my living and learning. So we had a mentoring call this last week, and during that call, something that Deb said, she didn't actually say anything about what I'm going to kind of talk about directly, but something that she said really sparked something for me. So many of you will know that I used to kind of go to church, and that we grew up in a church community. And so a lot of kind of my background is Bible based, and I know a lot of kind of Bible stories, and I have a lot of Bible verses that live in my head. And what I've really loved about being kind of on this journey around what we share now is how many times that a Bible verse comes back to me and I see it in a completely new way, and it really comes to life through me. And that happened for me this week during our mentoring call. I love the fact that we get to do programs with people and I get to learn something. I get to see something. It's brilliant. It's part of the reason why we do what we do, because we sit in these conversations and something changes for us.
We've created a life that lives inside this conversation.
Yeah. So we were on this call, and I'm sorry, Deb, I can't actually remember what it was that you said, but you said something.
It will have been inspiring and amazing.
I have no doubt whatsoever. But what I heard was one of my very favorite Bible verses is something. It goes something like, "A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways." And I remember hearing that as kind of a teenager and thinking, yes, I don't want to be unstable. I want stability. I want to be on, the right path. I want to do this right and get this right. And at the time, that meant something to me, and it guided my life a little bit in the direction I went in. But what I really, really heard when we were talking on our mentoring call the other day, I heard that verse really pointing to how we can be so double-minded in, 1 minute we're believing our thoughts and that we're not good enough, or we're useless, or we haven't got anything to give.
What I said.
Oh, do you?
well, maybe.
Probably. It probably was that. And then the next moment we're kind of believing our thinking that we've got this and we're okay and we're brilliant at what we do. And we're just, when we are believing those kinds of, and back and forth between those two mindsets, we are unstable. We haven't got kind of stability. We don't know if we're good enough, and we're not putting stuff out because we're scared. And then we are good enough and we're going wild in the aisles kind of thing. And you can see living like that is unstable. And I really saw that Bible verse. It just came to life. And I was like, oh, that's what it is. It's seeing that our stability doesn't come from moving between believing our thought. It's not. We're not stable when we're moving between believing our thoughts, whether they're good or bad. That's not where our stability comes from. it's beyond that. It's beyond or before our thoughts. There's this place in us that's always stable, and if we're being pulled back and forward between our thoughts, we don't have stability. A double-minded man, someone who's going flitting back and forward between believing our thoughts in this moment and believing that one because it's a good thought and that one because it's a bad thought, and not knowing, that's where our instability lies. And I used to have this image of a man with one foot on a boat in the water and one foot on the pier, and how unstable he would be. And if the boat moved at the wrong, he'd be in the water. And that's how it can feel when we're flitting between our thoughts and trying to grasp onto something to hold us and to be stable.
Yeah, and I was thinking, trying to find which one's right. Like when you've got that one foot in the boat.
Am I good enough? Am I not good enough?
Which one is it? On the pier. Should I be in the boat? Should I be in the pier? Should I be on the boat? Should I be on the pier? Back and forward. And
and I kind of, that image always stuck with me when I read that Bible verse. But what really came to me the other day on mentoring was how the instability comes from trying to grasp onto a thought and holding onto it for dear life. That's where our instability is. Our stability comes.
We're trying to find the which is right.
It's the moving around and the But stability comes when we know that none of that thinking is truth. Stability is before that. It's beyond
what underpins it.
So it really brought a whole new, like, that verse I've always loved just came to me in a whole new way. And I really had a really special moment and thought, this is why I love doing mentoring. I get mentored, yay. So that's kind of been my living and learning in the last week. And my loving is Gemma Hare, who was our winner from last week's show, who has been messaging me today because she won last week's show. She's been in touch with her questions to get her prize. And I won't share her questions because they're kind of personal for her. But her questions and kind of some of the stuff she was saying in her messages about what we're up to. And she's running a women's networking group in the area, which is how we know her. So I'm really loving what she's up to and that she's connecting with us. And as a kind of group and as a community, we're all trying to do something here to build lives that support each other, that allow us to live the lives that we love and to see something really helpful in what we do. So I've really loved our messages today, and I'm really glad she was our winner last week because it means that we get to provide her a really nice video with it. She sent some amazing questions. I won't share them because they're hers, but she sent some beautiful questions. So I'm loving Gemma this week, and thank you, Gemma, for all that you're doing.
So it's all the local ladies this week.
We're local ladies this week. Local ladies, I think.
It's just amazing, I think, to be part of so many beautiful, to be around so many beautiful, supportive people, and whether that is online because we live far apart or whether that is locally. And it's really, really nice to be a part of both of those things, I think.
We
have, like, in our Facebook group and on our YouTube, we're beginning to get a little bit of traction and people, and it's so lovely to kind of have you guys watching us, to have you with us, to have you supporting us, and it's just amazing, isn't it? Both real human, can touch you people because they live close enough and are amazing people that we have got community to know online. That's really, really great.
So
thanks, Beck. So we're going to move on to our question this week. So our question this week was around relationships, and it was around what are the rules for a good relationship? Because I know, when I got into deep trouble around relationships, that was what my talk was all about, the problems that I had within my relationships and how bad my relationship actually got, to a point where it was really, it was unsafe for us to live there. And I know, when I was having some counselling and when I was having some help to get out of that situation, one of the things that happened to me was that we ended up in discussions about what is acceptable in relationships and what isn't. I was a part of a few support groups to try and kind of get back on my feet and, start living life again, going out, getting into other relationships and things like that, and we often would end up within these groups having discussions about, what makes a good relationship and what kind of rules should we have, to make a good relationship. So I thought that was a really, really interesting question. And what's come into my mind here is what I began to see at the time when we were in those discussions was how many different rules people had, and how much they could, how made up those rules were, because of the fact that different people had different rules. Certain people would say, well, I would never let my partner cheat on me. And then we would kind of look at, so what does that mean if your partner cheats on me? Or, if your partner cheats, what does that mean? And someone would kind of come up with, well, I wouldn't have them look at another woman or look at another person that they fancy. Okay, so that constitutes cheating. And someone else would be, well, if they kissed somebody, that would be fine. But if they slept with somebody, that would be unacceptable. And you began to see how many different rules there were, and how many different rules different people had, and different rules for different times. And it kind of got a little bit like, whoa, if we were going to make a relationship rule book, it could be this thick, and then some, and it probably wouldn't cover absolutely everything. As we came to this understanding, as I began to learn a little bit more about myself and this deeper truth of who I am, what I began to see was that all of those rules are made up. And, those rules, in some way, the rules that I have around my relationship make sense to me in any given moment. And it might be that, this week I might have a rule that totally makes sense to me, and next week I might change my mind, because we live in the feeling of what we think in any given moment. And so it's almost like if we make a set of rules, I might even make rules that I can't keep to and that don't make any sense to me at times. And that kind of, I was like, so this is a minefield. This is really difficult. So I'm going to have a book this thick, or I'm going to have rules that change given the time of the month, or given the mood I'm in, or given the place I'm at, or whether we're on holiday, or whether we're here. And it started to just get crazy. So then what I did was kind of take a breath and just look at the deeper truth of who I am, and the fact that it seems to me that all of us have wisdom within us. We don't need a rule book to follow. We don't need a set of, I must do this and I have to do this and it has to be like this, because we can trust that in any given moment, the deeper truth of who we are is going to guide us, and we are going to do all right. We can trust ourselves in any moment when we know ourselves more deeply. So for me, if you kind of, what are the rules of a good relationship? If there was a rule, the rule that I would give is get to know yourself. That's the only rule that's worth having for a great relationship, because the more you know yourself, the more you are going to have an amazing relationship with yourself, because as you get to know yourself, you're going to find out just how blow your mind, amazing, blow it out the park, amazing you are. And you're going to be able to be in happy, healthy relationships from that place.
Yeah, I really love that, Deb. What was really coming to me was, because you're kind of talking about wisdom and where we go with that, what was coming to me was my wisdom in this moment is saying this. I'm going to break our kind of cardinal rule.
Oh, I love it.
Don't have rules and don't have steps and don't have advice. And I'm going to say this: if there is one rule, and I think it kind of touches on what you were saying just at the end there, if there were one rule for a good relationship, it's this: it always starts with you. A good relationship always starts with you. And if there's any rules about relationships, if there is going to be any rules that I would absolutely hard sell, it would be that one. It always starts with you. That's where a good relationship begins.
Absolutely.
Colette says yes. Thanks, Colette. I've nailed it. That's it. That's the, if there is a rule for a good relationship, that's it. It starts with you. And I'm going to cheat a little bit here, topical, because we're talking about relationships, and we might have to define what cheating is in a minute properly. But
cheat on me. You're going to cheat on me, Beth?
I'm going to cheat on the YouTube show. Deb and I wrote a blog each this week, which we do every week, and then recorded it as a vlog. And our topic this week was advice I would give my best friend. And if you want to watch the recording of that, it's on our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to find that. But I'm going to cheat a little bit and actually talk about what I shared in my blog, because actually the advice I would give my best friend would also be what I might loosely term rules for a good relationship. And they are, one of them Deb's already kind of touched on, which is the know yourself. So the three things I talked about in that blog were: know yourself, know that you never, ever have to believe you're thinking, and know that you already have everything you are looking for. And for me, if there were kind of, and maybe they're not rules, maybe we'll kind of twist the question a little bit. Maybe it's more guidance for a good relationship.
Oh, we can sneak in with a bit of guidance.
Yeah. We won't be hard and fast, because, it is exactly like Deb was saying. They're never going to be hard and fast rules, because we are not fixed as human beings. We change moment to moment. But what I think with the kind of advice that I gave in my blog is that they're actually things that, to me, exactly like I started with, they are starting with yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's know yourself, like get to know how you really work, get to know who you really are. And for me, that's what this conversation is. That's kind of what, when I was talking about my living and learning, like that Bible verse that came back to me after all these years, that's me just continually looking to know myself and to see something more, to see something within, to get to know how I truly work. So know yourself. Like any good relationship starts with you knowing yourself. And what does that mean? Who are you? You're 100% human and 100% spiritual. And that's something we touch on a lot in these kind of calls. So if you want to know a bit more about that, maybe ask us a question or something. We've definitely talked about that. So I won't expand too much on that, because I want to talk a little bit more about the other two. And Deb's already kind of touched a bit on the know thyself, so I'll skip on that one. So the other one is all about really truly knowing how our thought systems work, that we live in a thought-generated reality, and we never have to believe the thinking that we're having about ourselves, about our partner, any relationship we're in, any situation we don't have to believe that thinking, whatever that thinking is. If it comes with an uncomfortable feeling and isn't the feeling you want to be having, you don't have to believe it. You don't have to take it seriously. You don't have to act on it. It's thought. It's nothing more than, nothing more and nothing less than energy that's passing through you in that moment. In the same way that when a train, if you've ever been on a train platform and they say, stand back from the edge, there's a train coming through, and it's one of those just sweeps on past at great speed, you wouldn't kind of try and grab onto that and ride along with it. That's not sensible. We don't have to do that with our thinking either. If it's a thought that's not going to be good for us and it's sweeping through the station, don't grab onto it. Let it go. Let it pass through. Wait for the slower, nicer, calmer one to come. We don't have to believe our thinking ever. And the more you know that's true, the healthier and better your relationships get, starting with you.
What's coming to me around that is, because obviously, we've been around this understanding for quite a while, and what I see is that when things come, I'm hearing you say we don't have to believe our thinking ever, and what I've noticed with stuff that happens for me is it comes not looking like flipping thought.
Yeah. So that to me comes back to the get to know yourself.
And know, whatever it is you're wrestling with, trust me, however much you're kind of thinking, I get that I don't have to listen to my thinking, and this isn't thinking I'm listening to, this is a real thing that's going on. Spoiler alert.
Question that.
Yeah.
It's definitely not.
That is the knowing
It's
yourself.
really not.
Yeah. Because I know even just today, I got caught in something and I had to say, oh, Beck, what's going on for me here? And I knew, I know that energy passing through, this is thinking. I'm looking at it and it looked so real, didn't it?
Yeah.
It looked completely,
really did.
Looked like it was nothing to do with thought. And both of us are going, okay, so what do we do then? Come back and know that place where this is thought. And going back to kind of what you were saying about relationships always being about you, I know, sometimes when I share my story, and certainly when I share my story with people who haven't been around this understanding for a very long time, sometimes I'm hesitant to share that, the abusive relationship I appear to be in and all that sort of thing. The way that I got out of that, the way that I have thrived after that, is bringing all of that back to me. And it's not about blame, but it's a really interesting one, isn't it, to kind of, and there are definitely some no, absolutely, that wasn't me, not having that. And for me, over time, I gently kind of unpicked and gently went down every one of those alleyways and was kind of like, here
as well.
Yeah.
And that actually comes really nicely around to kind of what the third advice was in my blog, which I think just fits so beautifully with this topic, is that you already have everything you are looking for.
Absolutely nailed it, Beck.
Oh, thanks, Deb. If I had a mic, I'd drop it. And it is, to me, there's something about knowing that then, I kind of changed it slightly from rules, that just guides us to a good relationship. It guides us to healthier relations. When we know that we already have everything, we are so much less inclined to go looking for something from someone else. Because when we're looking for something from someone else, we will do almost anything to get it. And that's where unhealthy relationships and behaviors come from. Like, I will do whatever it takes to get love from that person, to get that person to approve of me, to feel good enough in that person's eyes. And so it makes sense that we behave in really irrational and unhealthy ways, because we're trying to get something. But as soon as we come back and see, again, start with yourself. See that you already have everything that you think you're looking for from outside. And those behaviors, they just kind of drop away. They don't make sense anymore. It doesn't make sense. If I needed to go out the house to get something, it would make sense. If that thing was outside the house, it would make sense that I would open the back door and step outside. But when I realise I've got milk in the fridge, I don't need to go anywhere. I've already got it. It's here. And that, it's a silly metaphor, but it's true for us as humans. We have everything we need. We are designed incredibly well. Everything we need. And so it just, as we start to see that, we just stop looking for stuff outside of us in really unhealthy ways, and good relationships blossom because we're good. We're good in the relationship with ourselves. So if there were a rule for a good relationship, I think it's starting with yourself.
Yeah,
always
absolutely.
Starting with knowing yourself.
Brilliant. So our topic this week came from a few different conversations, really. I've kind of heard this from a few different people over various different things. And I know this is a thought that I have, sometimes this thought plagues me sometimes. So our topic this week is, it's all right for you. And then it's kind of fill in the blank, what comes for you after that.
Yeah.
And I guess in a way it's a type of envy, isn't it? And I know sometimes, some of the conversations we've had with people over the last couple of weeks, one or two people have kind of said to us, well, it's all right for you and Beck because you've got each other. And then, I know sometimes my head does things, if there's something I'm I don't feel I'm good enough at, or something like that, you know, I can have the thought, well, it's all right for that person, you know, they've got money, they've got a good car, they've got a blah blah, whatever it is. But it's just this thing, isn't it, that we can have, it's all right for you.
Yeah.
And we put something in our Facebook group, kind of, you know, to sort of say, notice when your head does that to you. Because the interesting thing is, very, very often when we speak to the person, you know, if we look at somebody else and we're envious of their situation, and we kind of say, well, it's all right for you because whatever it is, if we speak to them about what it is we think they have that we think we haven't, you'll find they have got a very, very different view of it.
Surprisingly.
Surprisingly, yeah, incredibly surprisingly. So again, for me, this is, you know, when I have that kind of thinking, when I have the it's all right for you, I know some of you might be aware of this, but over, I think it's what is it, a couple of months now, Lucy, who is Beck's sister, my other niece, you know, some amazing, incredible things have been happening for Lucy. She's had huge insights around her addiction to alcohol, and we've had some beautiful conversations with her, and she's put some amazing videos out. She's been speaking to all sorts of people about the huge life-changing shifts that she has seen. And I know, you know, me and Beck have been here, like, sorting our business out and doing this and plodding along and doing stuff. And there are days when it just feels like Lucy kind of leapfrogged over me and Beck and is kind of having all sorts of amazing, brilliant success, you know, and brilliant. But, you know, I'm human, and my head can do things like, well, it's all right for Lou, you know, me and Beck laid a lot of groundwork, we've done all this work, it's all right for Lou, no. You know, my head can do that. I am human. And what I have seen for myself around that is exactly like Beck was saying when she was talking about the rules for a good relationship, and she talked about seeing how life works and seeing what our heads can do, and seeing, you know, that a thought like that can pass through. And when a thought like that passes through, trust me, when my head kind of says to me, well, it's all right for Lou, you know, you did this and this, and she just piggybacked off the back of you and got all this amazing attention and is doing really, really well, it looks and feels real. You know, when that thought occurs to me, it doesn't seem to me that that is a made up thought that I can see a different way. It looks like a truth. And what I absolutely love about this understanding is that, as I have seen how human experience is created, that thought, you know, when I have that thought about Lou, it's not nice. It doesn't feel good. I don't like myself much that I'm having that thought. And what I have seen is what I would have done before was go into beating myself up, or not liking myself, or justifying why I would have that thought, or all sorts of anything. None of them healthy, and none of them good for me or Beck or Lou. What I can see now is I can be perfectly okay that my mind does that. Do you know what? It's just something that crazy person in my head sometimes does. I know that that thought is not who I am. That thought is not how I truly feel. If I stop for a minute and breathe, I adore Lucy, and I am nothing but thrilled to bits about the amazing insights that she's had and what is unfolding for her from there. And I'm like, that's the truth here. That stupid, ridiculous thought that comes in that could destroy all sorts of things isn't truth, and it isn't real, and there's nothing I need to do about it. I don't need to change it. I don't need to get rid of it. I don't need to hate myself because I have it. I don't need to think I'm a bad person because I have it. I don't need to justify myself for having it. I just need to kind of look at it and go, really? Is that what you think, Deb? And it's like, no, that's just the crazy idiot in my head making suggestions that I am absolutely going to reject. Not interested in it. And then it kind of makes me laugh. And then I look at Lou and her little face as she's
she lights up, doesn't she?
Yeah, what she's seeing. And I'm like, go, Lou, I am 100% behind you. That's the true me. That's the truth of what is going on here. But what I've seen is it would be very, very easy to get caught in that thought and believe that it is true, and therefore have to do some kind of something, whether it is start to hate myself, make myself change that thought, not admit publicly that I have those kinds of thoughts, whatever it is, And what I love with this understanding is I don't have to do any of those things. I can say to you, do you know what? I'm 100% human, but I'm also 100% spiritual. I can also see the other side of the coin. And I can admit to you that my head can do crazy, stupid things too. And so what? I don't have to listen to it. I don't have to follow it. That is not my thinking. That is not my opinion. That is not who I am. And from that place, the freedom, life's just brilliant from there. And my crazy head can just keep being crazy. And I'm okay with that.
Oh, Jill Whalen has just commented, I invented a nice little story that you were all feuding. No, Jill, sorry, we're not. No. But isn't it amazing that our heads can do that?
Yeah, I love your story, Jill.
No. And probably the times when you're looking at us thinking, oh, they all get on so well. We're probably
That's probably when we are.
But what was going through my mind as Deb was kind of sharing that, when she kind of shared initially where we first heard that kind of "it's all right for you" phrase. We do get that a lot when we speak to people who work on their own, and we get quite a few people that say, oh, it's all right for you because you two work together. And what I really notice is that, like,
sometimes I drive her nuts and she wishes she didn't.
No, never. That never happened. But what I notice is that statement, whatever it ends with, it's all right for you, because whatever that ends with, it's a divisive statement. Like, what it's doing is separating you from me. It's saying you're different to me and I'm different to you. And I know one of the things I know that kind of happens between me and Deb sometimes is I'll have the story, it's all right for Deb. She's had lots of experience. She's been sharing the principles for years. And most of the people that follow us because of the work Deb's doing. So it's all right for her, but no one really wants to listen to me. And I know Deb sometimes... I know. Now we're feuding, Jill. But I know Deb has like her own kind of, it's all right for Beck. She's, I don't know, younger than me. She's fresh in this, whatever, her version of that. And what I see is that whatever our version of that is, it's divisive, it separates, it tells us we're different. And the crux of this, it causes the feuding that Jill thinks might have been happening. But what I really see in this is that actually it is all right for me. It is all right for Deb. And it is all right for you, because of the truth of who we are. Not because we work together, or not because Lucy's piggybacked on what we're doing, or not because. It's all right for every one of us, because of the way we're designed, because we're designed to be okay. We're actually designed to be okay no matter what's happening. We're designed to be okay if we work in a partnership. We're designed to be able to work on our own. We're designed to be able to work alongside someone like Lucy's done and take what we've been sharing and use it to our advantage in a great way. We're designed to do all of that. So actually, yes, it is all right for you and for me and for Deb and for everybody. Yeah, for the whole world. Yeah. Because actually, we're not separate. We're not divided. We're not different. Your flavour of ice cream might be different to mine. Your kind of thinking and anxieties might show up in a different way to me, but we are exactly the same. We work in the same way. We get lost and we worry and we get concerned when we believe our thinking And we all do that. Whatever that thinking is, whatever the content of it is, becomes irrelevant because we are all the same. And it's something about that statement tries to separate us and tries to make us different and tries to make us separate out. And something in that is painful. As human beings, when we connect and when we come together and when we see the place where we're the same, when Deb shares her story on the stage like she did on Sunday, people in the room move towards her because they feel that connection. When she shares that example of how she gets lost in her "it's all right for you" stories, we draw to that and we go, me too. I have that sort of thing too. And that brings us back together. And there's something about us as humans and the way that we're designed that we're meant to work together in that way. We're meant to connect in that way. We're meant to see the place where we're the same. And we understand each other and ourselves better when we look to the place where we are the same. And I think exactly like Deb was saying, you start to see that you don't have to believe "it's all right for you, but for me it's this," or because of that. And we can see where it actually is all right for us. We can see the place where it is okay because we're all designed perfectly. And we can see how our system works. We can see how we operate and we can see the truth of who we are. It's inbuilt in us to have that, to be able to see that, to be able to have insights and new thoughts, to be able to move on from the anxieties and the worries that we've had in the past. We're wired to do that. So it actually is okay for every single one of us, not just for us because we work together, or not just for you, because it's actually all right for every single one of us because we work in the same way.
But for the thinking that we have that tells us that it's not.
But
and again,
say,
we can loop back round and begin to see through that thinking and begin to see we don't have to listen to that thinking. And to me, the less I listen to it, the more that I kind of see it there, and I'm just not interested in it. I don't really care that it's there. It starts to look more and more amusing that it kind of comes along. Yes. It's like, okay, I'm gonna come and see if you'll take me seriously this time.
Yes, it can be quite amusing, some of the stories that we actually do get kind of tripped up on sometimes, can't it? For a minute or two, and then we just start to, for me, I just start to come back and see, Deb has thinking that it's all right for me. I hadn't realised that. I thought she was, I thought she was perfectly fine over there.
I'm perfect, obviously.
When she, gets lost in her thinking. And that's the thing to me, is seeing the reason we have these conversations is because it makes a difference when we start to see the place we're the same, when we start to see through the thoughts that have us trapped, that have us doing that instability thing I was talking about earlier. When we start to see through that, somehow talking about this in the way that we do, I don't even know how that works exactly. Some sort of magic in the universe just somehow brings us this new thought, this new open-minded insight that says, you're the same as me. I have that kind of, in some way, insecurity too. So actually it's okay just to not buy into that.
And the other thing that I've seen is when we have those kind of, it's almost like we get a short-term win when we listen to our shitty, horrible thinking. When we're kind of like, if something like that, and we think, and that person doesn't deserve something. So for a minute, we kind of have a short-term, we feel a little bit better maybe in that minute. But when we actually see through that thought, when we stop and look at it and actually ask the question, do I really think this? And we kind of see through it. And for me, what happens then is I act in a much more loving, much kinder way when I do that. And when we have conversations with people, we find, like Beck, when she kind of says she has the, it's all right for you, Deb, thinking. And I say, guess what? I have, it's all right for you, Beck, thinking. And we end up laughing at each other and being much closer and more loving. And the world just looks like a much nicer place, and there just seems to be way more wins in the world as we move on from that place. Like Beck said, it's like a kind of weird magic, isn't it, that just sort of don't really know exactly how that works, and I don't know whether we ever will know exactly how that works, but it just it's part of how we have so much fun together and how we of rub along perfectly okay together, because we'll sometimes
and we
say,
aren't feuding.
no, sorry, we're not feuding. We will often admit to each other that we have strange thinking about each other, and then it just becomes hilarious that happens. And I think, when I used to believe that thinking was true, and then either not like myself because I had it and hide it, it became something. It became like a thing. So it's much nicer now just to laugh at that crazy dude that's sometimes in my head.
Absolutely. Right, so it's competition time.
Ooh, so I think it is written on the board that I'm supposed to be the one saying about the competition, but I think you came up with the idea for this week's competition. This is your baby, so I think you should say what the competition is this week.
So our competitions, if you don't know, we're asking you to share something with us, and I'll tell you what that might be in a second. After the show, go back to the replay and comment below with your answer, and then once you comment, you're entered into the competition, and what you can win is the opportunity for us to record a video personally for you, where you get to ask us 1, 2, or 3 questions. Anything you like about kind of what we share and what it is for you that you want to know.
Ask us what we do actually feud about.
You can, if you like. You can waste one of your wishes on that. But you get to ask us up to 3 questions, and we'll put together a video that's entirely just for you, entirely private, just for you, as your prize. So if you want to join in with the competition this week, if you were with us at the beginning of the show, I talked about a Bible verse that had really stuck with me and had kind of come back to me again this week in a whole new way. So what we want you to do is share with us your favorite quotes or particular things that have really stuck out for you. It might be a Bible verse, it might be from another spiritual book, it might be a quote you've heard somebody share, something that really jumped out at you as meaning something. And we want to know what that quote is, and preferably where it came from, if you like, and a little bit about why you like it. So if you come back to the replay afterwards, comment below. If you're on a mobile phone, you have to scroll, I think, quite a long way down to get to the comment section, but it's worth it to win the prize. So enter the competition. Let us know your kind of favourite quote, or a quote that's really meant something to you.
Cool. That's
we'll
brilliant.
Announce the winner next week.
Yes. And we will be back next week at the same time, 5 o'clock, and hopefully the internet won't be playing up as much next week. But who knows? Our internet likes to keep us on our toes, doesn't it?
It's all right for you if you've got good internet.
It's all right for those of you that've got decent internet. Yeah, absolutely. So next week, our topic is going to be all about people pleasing. Something that I know an awful lot about.
Deb was the queen of people pleasing,
absolutely.
And I was probably a princess. So.
Yes. We were royalty.
Definitely a royalty on that one.
And the people pleasing. So we're going to be having a discussion all about that. And then our question next week is, how do I stop blaming myself when I feel down? A lot of you talk to us about how much you tear yourselves apart and how cruel you can be to yourselves. So we're going to be having a discussion that's going to be answering that question next week. So it would be great to have you with us. And as I said, hopefully we will have a full internet.
Yes, thanks for bearing with us with our technical issues at the beginning,
and
thanks for finding us.
Absolutely.
We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, indeed. Have a great week. Bye.